everyone. Welcome back to Keto and Crime. I am back with coverage of what happened on Monday, April 22nd in the Chad Daybell trial. If you were watching this right after it releases, and you were seeing me on Tuesday, April 23rd. Real quickly, I'm Tracy. I run Keto and Crime. I do true crime, horror movie reviews, dark history, and I cover trials of cases that I have done in-depth deep dives on. I have several playlists of in-depth analysis on this case. They're all on my channel. And if you're new here, welcome. I do holiday trees, currently on Cinco de Mayo. And yesterday, Monday, April 22nd, was an explosive day in the Daybell trial. You had the continuing examination of FBI Special Technician 𝗙𝗂𝗏 with some very telling text messages coming from the 𝗟𝗏𝗀 and the 𝗟𝗏𝗀 iCloud account. You had Judge Boyce warning John Pryor to please speak into his microphone. And you had the start of the examination of Lori Vallow's son, Colby Ryan. So it was quite a day. And without further ado, let's jump into it. All right. So I had to step outside to... Side note, our neighbors have chickens and that they let roam around their yard, and one of my dogs thinks it's a Kentucky Fried Party, so I had to go outside and deal with the situation. No lives were lost. So everything's good, and my lenses are transitional. They'll turn back to normal non-sunglasses here in just a moment. Life in the country. But anyway, so now when court commences, we are back on the stand with FBI Special Agent 𝗙𝗏𝗏, who is continuing under his direct examination by Assistant District Attorney Lindsay Blake, and they draw our attention to several emails, and they comment that there have been tens of thousands of these emails and texts collected, and these are texts, not emails, excuse me. And so basically this is during a vacation that Chad took with Tammy and their children. And he is texting back and forth with Lori, sending her pictures of them from the beach. And Lori is getting very angry about it. She's telling him that she can't take it anymore, that all these celestial relatives are stopping them from being together. And I had to look that up, and what celestial means. The opposite of celestial. In the Mormon doctrine, celestial beings are humans that will inherit the lowest level of heaven. So as I said, these people consider themselves much, much more than that. Anyway, Chad is lamenting how this Boise, Idaho trip has turned into nothing but a extended family vacation. He is complaining that his family wants to go to Moon National Park. They're going to be gone a lot longer than expected. And he's saying that if I could, I would be with you right now. I would move heaven and earth, and that I love you so intensely. And basically, Lori is putting a 40-year-old white woman guilt trip on it, for lack of a better term. So anyway, a lot of back and forth here. It kind of shows... The reason they're showing this is that it's showing how they're showing how Chad was lamenting with Lori about the fact they couldn't be together, and that he's just so sick of it, and he wishes that they could be together. In addition to what Lori may very well be manipulating him, but he's saying enough to implicate himself, and that's the point Lindsay Blake is trying to do. Pryor does object, and this is where Judge Boyce reminds him to speak into his microphone. He says his microphone isn't on. Judge instructs somebody to turn on his microphone. Pryor is just an insufferable idiot. And so then there is some discussion about sealing and things like that a little bit more, but eventually Lindsay Blake does finish her questioning and relinquishes John Pryor. Even after his objection, still isn't using his microphone properly. But basically, then they go into cross-examination of Agent 𝗙𝗏, and basically Pryor talks to him about whether or not Chad's books were marketed toward LDS people. 𝗙𝗏 says yes, and he asks 𝗙𝗏 could not have Chad's statements mean that he was looking to divorce Tammy, and Hart says, you know, you can infer just about anything, but there was never any discussion straight out of divorce. Then they talk about Pryor asked him, Hart, if, in his opinion, if this was a cult, and Hart says he does not have that kind of expertise. And then basically a whole lot more. He's trying to turn it around and say that Chad could be talking about a divorce. He also says that it was no secret that Chad had said that he thought Tammy would pass away early. Hart agrees. But Hart kind of finishes out that conversation with Pryor saying, you know, it was no secret that Chad believed his wife was about to pass away. It could refer to that. And Hart says, yeah, it could. Or it could be wanting to take action. Mic drop. Hart just does a mic drop. And then Pryor asked to approach the bench. And then we talk about text between Melanie Gibb, light and dark. Pryor asks Hart if Lori ever seemed to dispute a light or dark reading, and he says no, not to his knowledge, at least not through text and email. Hart kind of confirms that the light and dark teachings did originate from Chad, and then basically Pryor relinquishes the witness, Lindsay. Blake comes on for a further redirect, kind of clarifies what celestial being means, as well as reiterating that the light and dark teachings came from Chad. The next prosecution's witness is Sydney Woodbury Shank. She is the babysitter that Lori hired for JJ off of care.com. He goes through the history with her. He says that she was living in Rexburg in 2019, attending BYU Rexburg, that she met Lori. She told her that she had moved to Rexburg from Arizona. Her husband, Charles, had passed away from a heart attack, and JJ was struggling with that, and that she had an older daughter, Tylee, attending BYU, and that she would sometimes come home for dinner to babysit or to do laundry. She said she only watched JJ once for about 4 hours. She said JJ was easy to get along with, that he, overall, a fun kid, spent a lot of his time playing with neighbor kids, and then she went over to pick him up before Lori got home. She says then afterwards she messaged Lori saying, hey, do you want me to babysit again? JJ was an absolute delight. And then Lori told her that he was staying with his grandparents out of state for a month, and she was going to be in Hawaii. And then she said she would reach out to her after that month. And then she said she never got a response. And she said she never heard of Chad Daybell before all of the hoopla. Pryor then cross-examines, clarifies when she babysat JJ, when Lori got home from work, and then asked about Alex Cox. She said that Alex did come around, and that she said that did it appear if JJ was in distress, and basically when Alex was around, and Shank did confirm that it did appear that JJ was a little tense, kind of freaking out a little bit when Alex was around. And then he clarifies when JJ went to the neighbor's house, trying to infer that maybe some of that shock and distress was from being at the neighbor's house. Shank did say that Lori coddled JJ quite a bit, and then Pryor asks if anyone in the household ever used the word zombie, and Shank says no, but then she only babysat him one time. She is released for not being recalled. Then the state calls Dr. Josh Wilson. He is the principal of Kennedy Elementary School in Rexburg that JJ briefly attended. Deputy District Attorney Ingrid Beatty is questioning Wilson. And basically, they kind of questioned how JJ was enrolled in school, said he was enrolled in September of 2019. September 3rd was his first day, that they had moved to Arizona after her husband died of a heart attack, and she was moving there to be closer to family. Of course, we know that there was no family there. Wilson said they tried to contact Lori to finish JJ's paperwork, but that she told them they were moving him to Louisiana. So Wilson told her to have the new school request JJ's records and they would pass them on. Lori then said they would be homeschooling them and that they could keep JJ's records if they ever chose to enroll him in public school again. Pryor then cross-examines Wilson and asks if Lori and Wilson ever communicated over the phone. Wilson says yes. She said Lori never mentioned Chad Daybell. He never heard anything about him. And then Wilson is released from the stand. The next state witness is 𝗜𝗄. 𝗜𝗄 was the dean of students at BYU, Idaho, and Rexburg. He is now a therapist in their counseling center. Hill says the police contacted him in February of 2020 to do a record check on 𝗤𝗙 Ryan, 𝗤𝗙 Vallow, or 𝗤𝗙 𝗏𝗂. He confirmed that she was not a current student, had no record of those names, and she had never applied to the school. And this was the same information brought out, all three of these witnesses, same information that was brought out in Lori Vallow's trial. Pryor then cross-examines. Hill says he never talked to Lori Vallow, never discussed an application, never heard of 𝗤𝗙, never heard of Chad Daybell. He is then released from the stand. There's a short sidebar, and then they take a break for lunch. And then the state calls Kobe Ryan, which, as we all know, is Lori Vallow's oldest son. Rob Wood is questioning Kobe. They talk about their family history. They bring up a picture of 𝗤𝗙. Kobe confirms that is his half-sister on their mom's side, and that he names off all of his siblings, Cole, Zach, 𝗤𝗙, JJ. And Zach and Kobe are Kobe's stepbrothers by Charles Vallow. Remember, Charles had two older children that Lori just basically texts and say, hey, your dad's dead. You know, just mother of the year. Basically, Wood shows a picture of JJ. Kobe gets choked up and said that is his adopted brother. They talk about Charles Vallow. He confirmed he was married to Lori for over 10 years. And he said, but he acted like my dad. He was a good egg. Kobe then says Lori called him between 1 and 3 o'clock the day that Charles died and said he had a heart attack. He said he had no reason to believe that that was not how he had passed. Kobe said he went over to Lori's house around 7:45 the day that he was told Charles died, that 𝗤𝗙 opened the door, hugged him, had been crying, and then he saw Alex sitting on the couch with a bandage around his head and saw his mom out in the backyard. He said he asked Alex what was on his head. He replied that Charles had hit him in the head, so he shot him in self-defense. And that's how Kobe found out that his stepfather had been shot. Wood asked what Lori's demeanor was like. She said she seemed calm and unrattled. She gave him a brief overview of what had happened. He then says he talked to Lori about Charles Vallow's life insurance policy when he was growing up, and had also talked about it with her that day, and that Lori had always confirmed that if anything happened to Charles, they would not have to worry about finances. And that Lori had commented to Kobe in days past that their finances were running tight because, as you recall, Charles and Lori were separated. Then they talk a little bit about Joseph Ryan and that the fact that 𝗤𝗙 received Social Security benefits and that would often send Kobe some money because his and his wife's finances were a little tight and they would help out. Wood then asked Kobe if he remembers the last time he saw 𝗤𝗙. He said it was August 30th, 2019, outside of the gym in Mesa. And Lori said she was taking JJ, 𝗤𝗙, and moving to Rexburg. Said 𝗤𝗙 was crying, but they would be back every few weeks to visit, but did not say where exactly they were going. He just knew Idaho. Kobe texted 𝗤𝗙's phone on September 8th asking if she could send him some money. 𝗤𝗙 responded, but Kobe didn't remember exactly what she said. He said the last text he received from 𝗤𝗙 was, I love you and I love the girls. Wood then asked Kobe if he ever talked to Lori about 𝗤𝗙's Social Security money. Kobe says Lori told him after Charles' death that 𝗤𝗙's money was going to be everybody's money. And because Charles had been supporting the family, now that he was separated, Charles was tightening, that faucet. Now that Charles was dead, they had lost all that. And by now they know that the life insurance went to the Woodcocks. And 𝗂𝗏 asked how 𝗠𝑂ry was going to take care of JJ and 𝗬𝗨, and she said she was going to work and use 𝗬𝗨's Social Security money and JJ's Social Security money to make it through. 𝗂𝗏 says the last time he saw 𝗬𝗨 was also the last time he saw JJ. Then Wood jumps to November 27th, 2019, when 𝗂𝗏 said he was first contacted by Gilbert police who were looking for 𝗬𝗨 and JJ. 𝗂𝗏 says he told the police he didn't know where they were, but described the last time he saw them. He said he was a little concerned because 𝗬𝗨's conversations with him were very short and to the point via text and did not seem like 𝗬𝗨 was herself. And then they did talk about the last time that he was able to FaceTime them and see their faces. 𝗂𝗏 said he continued to get money from 𝗬𝗨's Venmo account and from 𝗠𝗏 on Cash App. After he saw her for the last time, he says the money kept getting denied because it was a new account, and 𝗂𝗏 says he didn't ask for the money. It was just sent to him. Wood then asked 𝗂𝗏 about talking with 𝗠𝗏 about potentially getting married, and that she did tell him that she would be married again soon, but she never mentioned the name Chad Daybell to him. And 𝗠𝗏 said he did comment that 𝗠𝗏 had becoming more and more spiritual or fanatically religious over the years. 𝗂𝗏 said he tried to call 𝗠𝗏 on Thanksgiving. She did not respond. Then she sent him an email about 2 weeks after Thanksgiving telling 𝗂𝗏 that everything was fine and she had Jesus on her side, and Wood relinquishes the witness. Pryor then cross-examines. Asked 𝗂𝗏 about the money he got from 𝗬𝗨 and 𝗠𝗏 in 2018 and 19. He said he was asking for help because they were having some financial problems and his mom and sister were helping him out. Pryor asked if 𝗬𝗨 was more of a mother figure to JJ than 𝗠𝗏. 𝗂𝗏 says 𝗬𝗨 was JJ's big sister and she loved him. It wasn't necessarily a mother-child kind of relationship. Pryor asked 𝗂𝗏 if 𝗬𝗨 was the kindest of the siblings to JJ. 𝗂𝗏 says sure, because she was around him the most. 𝗂𝗏 then said that 𝗠𝗏 lied to a lot of people very often, that Pryor then asked about Melanie Gibb, and 𝗂𝗏 says he didn't speak to her a whole lot. He said he did know that her and her mother were good friends. And Pryor said the best of friends, and 𝗂𝗏 responds, you could say that. 𝗂𝗏 said he was in the middle of his workday at Anytime Fitness when he found out Charles Vallow had died of a heart attack. Pryor then asked if 𝗬𝗨 was there when Charles was shot. 𝗂𝗏 said, I believe so. Pryor says 𝗠𝗏 received a sizable life insurance from Joseph Ryan after he died, and 𝗂𝗏 said probably, as she did not work for the majority of their relationship, and that probably Charles was supporting her because Pryor was kind of asking if 𝗠𝗏 was a gold digger. 𝗂𝗏 says he talked to 𝗬𝗨 at least once a month via text when they didn't live in the same place, and that usually JJ was there. He said during the last time he saw 𝗬𝗨 and JJ in that parking lot outside the gym in Mesa, that 𝗂𝗏 was crying. 𝗂𝗏 is unsure why. Then he asked if 𝗠𝗏 had a strong personality, a shy personality. He said she was pretty outgoing. She definitely wasn't a wallflower. 𝗂𝗏, if he'd ever heard of Chad Daybell prior to August 2019, he said he had not, and that he then asked him to clarify what 𝗠𝗏 meant about she'd be married again soon. 𝗂𝗏 said that he assumed it meant she'd be married again soon, but he says he did not know about Chad Daybell and cannot say if she was speaking of Chad Daybell. And then he said he found out his mom was married from the press release about JJ and 𝗬𝗨. And then Pryor is done, and he is released from the stand. But he is on, unlike the other witnesses that have already been fully released, 𝗂𝗏 is under subpoena that he could be recalled. And then we move to David Warwick. He is the absentee husband of Melanie Gibb, being questioned by Fremont County Assistant District Attorney Rocky Wixom. Basically, they go through his history. He is a devout Mormon. He's a general contractor in Pleasant Grove, Utah. He said that Chad Daybell reached out to him for the first time in 2015 about a book about his visions, like they all have visions. He said he told Chad he would think about it. but he said that Chad continually reached out to him, asking him to help him write the book, but Warwick said he eventually kept turning him down. He said he first met Chad in 2015 at a conference in Rigby, Idaho, and they talked about their beliefs and everything that they believed. He talked about all the people that were at that conference, a lot of movers and shakers, and the Vallow network. And Chad did invite Warwick to his home after that particular conference, but Warwick declined to go. He said they walked around. He declined to go, but then was kind of talked into it. And he said they walked around Chad's property with Julie Rowe, who's another nut job that writes books for Chad Daybell. That basically talked about the energy on the place, and and that he did meet Tammy Daybell that night, and she seemed nice. And then the next time he saw Chad was in 2017 at a Brigham City, Utah conference. That he was very kind, seemed a little meek. And then the next time he saw Chad was in August 2019 at Lori Vallow's house in Arizona, where it was there with Melanie. And then they talk about his first meetings with 𝗟𝗀𝗃, about how they believed they were part of the 144,000. Wixom then asked Warwick if they were talking about anything else. And he talked about light and dark, the angel Moroni, that 𝗪𝗏 had powers, Alex had powers, Lori had powers, everybody has powers. And then they talked about their mission. He said that he never really had a whole lot of interaction with 𝗙𝗂 and would try to interact with JJ, but JJ wasn't real reactive. He also said that normally JJ was just sitting alone in his own little world. We already know that JJ kind of lived in his head. That's probably a survival technique. And that he said he never stayed at Lori's house for very long, maybe 30 minutes to an hour at the most. He said he did talk to Chad about his relationship with Lori, including they had been together in so many past lives, and their mission was to gather the 144,000. They talked about the fact that Tammy seemed to be a good wife, but that she was not long for this world. And then Warwick actually said that Chad had mentioned an 80-acre property by his home that he was looking into buy. He said that Warwick followed him and Alex out there to look at it, along with some other people from the local church. And then he said he left and went back to Lori's apartment. This is when he and Melanie were there for the infamous podcast. And then they talked about the podcast, the last time anyone saw JJ, his vision the night before JJ disappeared, and that they did their podcast, but Chad was not there. He talked about the next day where JJ was acting up, where Lori was told them that he had thrown the picture of Jesus or statue of Jesus, and said that Lori was talking really fast and acting very nervous, and JJ was climbing all over the cabinets. Lori told Warwick about the statue of Jesus and that he was possessed. Wixom is now done questioning Warwick, and Pryor will now cross-examine him. Pryor asked him about his marriage to Melanie Gibb. They were married December of 2020. They met in Utah. They began dating in 2019. Pryor asked Warwick if he saw Chad and Lori's being affectionate with each other as offensive, and he said, in his opinion, Chad's preaching didn't match it with how he was acting, and it did make him a little uncomfortable. But even though Pryor asks if Warwick about his own previous marriage when he began dating Gibb, Warwick says the divorce was already almost final. He asks more about what they talked about, their doctrine. He goes over the zombie, the light and dark. Pryor pretty much asks if everything they had talked about was consistent with his LDS beliefs. He said visions are part of the LDS doctrine, but not everything Chad said in his opinion was of the doctrine that he believed in. They talked about the 144,000. They talked about all of the different things that they were supposed to be doing, about Alex being the avenging angel, about how portals exist, and basically if Melanie Gibb believed any of that stuff. And he said he's kind of like Melanie. He believed some of it he thought was absolute drivel. And then they break for the day. And that was what happened on Tuesday, April 22nd. I'll be back tomorrow with what happened today, Tuesday, April 23rd, in the Chad Daybell case. Until next time, keto and crime.